Hey guys, Mark Myers here, again with another prophetic update, where we actually bring you the information of the day and the top headlines that we believe that you should be aware of. And just in case you're not getting them on social media or mainstream media, we're actually going to bring it to you directly ourselves from the prophetic update. And also remember, if you'd like to continue to support us, go ahead and click the link down below at prophetc.net. That's Prophet, T as in Tom, C as in cat, .net, where we have a bunch of things online for you to be able to shop and continue to support us with. Thank you. And of course, the first topic for today is going to start in Canada, where the peaceful truckers convoy in Canada, where hundreds of thousands of people have actually decided to protest against the vaccine mandates and the tyrannical lockdowns of Prime Minister Trudeau. Where thousands of truckers have actually banded together to block the main highways there in Canada until the mandates are lifted, which this has now infuriated Trudeau, prompting him to then declare a state of emergency there in Canada. It is now illegal to peacefully protest or dissent from the Canadian government. Trudeau has now been treating the protesters as almost terrorists, and even in the legislation that they are now just passing with the new emergency powers, it's actually going to give them the power to start freezing the bank accounts of anyone who protests against the Canadian government and anyone who is affiliated with the protests. The leader of the convoy, Tara Litch, has been arrested in connection, of course, with the peaceful protest.
I'll probably be going somewhere tomorrow where I'll be getting 3 square meals a day, and that's okay. I'm okay with that, and I want you to know that I'm not afraid. I'll probably get some sleep finally. And I pray and I hope that you will make your choices from love. You have to know that they're trying to provoke us. I mean, you hear their language.
There are now reports of actual UN troops being flown into Canada to arrest and help with the arrest of any of the Canadian people who are actually participating in Ottawa and places basically province-wide there.
Well, we're at the North Bay CFAB airport. The United Nations are officially in Ontario. The police in Ottawa are United Nations police officers. Canadian police are standing down, and United Nations are taking over our country.
There is video of police beating protesters and people. There's people being trampled by the RMC or the Royal Mounted Canadian Police. And things are getting very, very dire there right now.
The small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians who have been there for each other, who know that following the science and stepping up to protect each other is the best way to continue to ensure our freedoms, our rights, our values as a country. We are not intimidated by those who hurl insults and abuse at small business workers and steal food from the homeless. We won't give in to those who fly racist flags. We won't cave to those who engage in vandalism or dishonor the memory of our veterans. So to those responsible for this behavior, it needs to stop.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted that I find quite interesting.
Regardless of the fact that we are attacking your fundamental rights or limiting your fundamental rights, and the Charter says that's wrong, we're still going to go ahead and do with it. The federal government has invoked the Emergencies Act to supplement provincial and territorial capacity to address the blockades and occupations.
We went after the funding. Our efforts combined with the city's efforts eliminated the GoFundMe. $10 million are no longer accessible to the demonstrators. There are other funding avenues that we continue to aggressively go after through intelligence, information, coordination with financial institutions, and all three levels of government.
We are broadening the scope of Canada's anti-money laundering and terrorist financing rules so that they cover crowdfunding platforms and the payment service providers they use.
We will be relentless in pursuing the funding that has enabled this demonstration to continue to this point.
These changes cover all forms of transactions, including digital assets, such as cryptocurrencies.
I want to be very clear. The scope of these measures will be time-limited, geographically targeted, as well as reasonable and proportionate to the threats they are meant to address. The Emergencies Act will be used to strengthen and support law enforcement agencies at all levels across the country. This is about keeping Canadians safe, protecting people's jobs, and restoring confidence in our institutions.
As of today, a bank or other financial service provider will be able to immediately freeze or suspend an account without a court order.
Justin Trudeau, I mean, I thought he was kind of a cool guy. And I started to read what he said. This is a couple of weeks ago. He was, or maybe this is September, but he was talking about people who are not vaccinated. He said they don't believe in science. They're often misogynistic, often racist. No, they're not.
That was not smart of him at all.
Right. He said, but they take up space. And with that, we have to make a choice in terms of a leader as a country. Do we tolerate these people? It's like, tolerate them? Now you do sound like Hitler.
So again, we want to send out our special prayers to the Canadians who are actually standing up for their rights. We also want to send our love, prayer, and support to those around the world, even in Australia, in New Zealand, who are going through the same thing. Again, we are only sponsored by you, so if you like what you've seen today in today's content and want to continue to support us, please do so at prophetic.net. Thank you so much for listening.
Your love. Spread love like you want love. Through the sun, God's love's where it comes from. Spread love. Stop